All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Hammond? Here. Senator Hansen? Here. Senator Pazina? Present. Senator Spearman? Chair Harris?
Here. Please mark Senator Spearman excused. And we have a quorum, so we will jump right into our bill hearing. Assembly Bill 112, and we'll welcome the Assembly Chair, Mr. Howard Watts. Welcome, sir. You can go ahead and begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Howard Watts, representing Assembly District 15 in Clark County. Thank you very much for setting aside some time to hear Assembly Bill 112 today. This bill was introduced at the request of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources, which I had the pleasure of serving as the chair as during the last interim. Briefly, what the bill does is create a wildlife crossings account in the state and would appropriate $5 million from the general fund in order to support that account. The account could also accept gifts, grants, and other donations. But really, the key purpose of this is highlighted in Section 2, subsection 4, where it lays out the use of these funds for the design, construction, identification, restoration, and protection of wildlife crossings and related features in the state, and provides some additional detail. But critically, under that, A includes matching federal money. This is something that has been a big priority of mine, to identify opportunities for us to take advantage of and be able to compete for federal funding that's available. As part of the infrastructure laws that were passed last year, $350 million has been allocated to the Wildlife Crossing Pilot Program. And several states, including most of our neighboring states, have started standing up programs and allocating funds for these types of efforts. Nevada has actually historically led on wildlife crossings, has developed some incredible projects, and this is a unique opportunity. We're using general funds so that we are not pulling any resources away from our existing roadway projects, but are trying to position ourselves to seize this unique opportunity over the next few years, when particularly this $350 million pot of money is available. Normally, these types of highway projects have an 80-20 federal match. Because of Nevada's high share of public lands, we actually have usually a 95-5 federal match. So whether it's these competitive funds or other federal transportation funds, this would allow us to leverage up to roughly $95 million in federal funding to accelerate the deployment of these projects across the state. We do have significant needs, whether it's particularly for assisting our mule deer population, but there's even culverts for assisting tortoise to cross. So there's a lot of different benefits that we can see from these types of projects. The costs that we have to our community, first and foremost, if there's a collision, injuries or death to motorists on our roadway, and finding actions that we can take to improve public safety, I think, is critical. There's also vehicle repair costs, increases in insurance rates, the costs for collision response and cleanup, and then there's the loss of wildlife, which has a range of benefits, including for big game impacts to sportsmen as well. There have been multiple estimates on these costs, and I pulled there were two studies that came out in 2021. I picked the more conservative numbers, and it estimates the range of different items I just listed to be $8,000 in costs per collision with a deer, $22,000 per collision with an elk, and $40,000 per collision with a moose, all three of which species we do have here in Nevada. Again, I think that this is a great opportunity to augment our resources and augment projects in our state that that have the mutual benefit of improving public safety on our roadways while also improving wildlife corridors and migration. So with that, I will go ahead and conclude my presentation. Glad to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Committee members, do we have any questions for Chair Watts? All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for testimony. Those here to testify in support of AB 112, go ahead, come forward, fill the seats. Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Harris and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christy Cabrera-Georgeson, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Nevada Conservation League. We are here in strong support of AB 112, and this is one of our top priorities this session. As you heard, this is a huge problem in Nevada, and now estimates that there are about 500 of these collisions each year reported, and that charges the state about $20 million. Additionally, these are pretty often underreported, so that number is probably far greater. The state can access significant federal funds by passing this bill. We can save wildlife lives, we can save human lives, we can save the state some money and get the state some money, so we strongly urge the committee's support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Harris and committee members. My name is Rebecca Goff, and I'm the Nevada State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. On behalf of our Nevada members and those of our partners, the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, we offer our support of AB 112. Habitat loss and fragmentation threaten countless wildlife species. The growing U.S. human population means more development, more deforestation, and less wild and open spaces. Even lands remaining undeveloped will become increasingly fragmented by infrastructure developments. Roads are a major mortality factor for wildlife populations residing in fragmented habitats. Those shrinking wildlife habitats are also increasingly disconnected from one another, reducing species movement and dispersal. This poses a major threat to the long-term survival of wildlife populations that require migration to access necessary resources, and increases the potential for inbreeding as a result of genetic restriction. Vehicle collisions with wildlife are also expensive to society, including the monumental toll of human injuries, fatalities, and property damage, and other costs including the suffering of injured animals, the funds to care for them by nonprofit organizations, the loss of expenditures involved in the conservation efforts of threatened or endangered species, government costs for cleanup and disposal of tens of thousands of animal carcasses, and the cultural losses to those who value Nevada's wildlife. We therefore thank the sponsor for the introduction of AB 112, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of two organizations. One, the Nevada Outdoor Business Coalition, which supports and promotes all of those things that we love to do in the outdoors. The other client that I have is MedX Air One. MedX Air One is the helicopter and fixed-wing medical transport system in rural Nevada. They serve Elko, Battle Mountain, and others. They see what devastation happens when a car doing 80 miles an hour hits a moose, and we do have those in rural Nevada, or even just a deer, or someone that swerves to dodge wildlife into incoming traffic. It's devastating. They don't want to make those transports. This bill will help that. We very much appreciate your support.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Annette Magnus, and I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress. We're here today to show our support for Assembly Bill 112. This bill is personal for me as well. In July of 2022, my husband and I were on the East Coast for our annual national park trip, and a deer jumped over the guardrail and landed on top of the hood of our small rental car on the highway right outside New River Gorge National Park in West Virginia. This experience was traumatizing and costly to us, but it also cost the deer her life. We were in a rural area with no cell service, and the car was totaled. We were stuck on the side of the road for over 8 hours in the rain with no help from the rental car company. There were 0 crossings for animals in the area, which, from all my research on this bill, could have prevented the accident altogether. We're still dealing with our insurance and the rental car company to this day. Our organization has always been a champion for outdoor recreation, and this bill is one of our priority bills for the session. Nevada has endless opportunities for people to get outdoors, and our wildlife is a significant part of the attraction across our state. Nevada must create a comprehensive plan to maintain, enhance, and restore critical migratory routes for wildlife. The more open space and intact habitat we have for wildlife, the healthier their populations will be, and the more our outdoor recreation economy will thrive. We urge the committee to pass AB 112 and protect our wildlife and our humans' life. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kyle Davis, today on behalf of the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. The Coalition is in strong support of the bill that you have in front of you today. We appreciate the interim committee and Assemblyman Watts for bringing this bill forward. Nevada's been a leader on wildlife crossings, and they are proven to work and proven to save both wildlife and human lives, so we would urge the committee's support. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kennedy McKinney, for the record, here on behalf of Pew Charitable Trust, here today in full support of AB 112. Nevadans understand that wildlife crossings are essential for the conservation of lands and wildlife. We have a more in-depth letter submitted in support up on Nellis, but we wanted to be here on the record in person. Thank you.
Okay, anyone in Las Vegas not seeing any? BPS, can we check the phone lines for support testimony on AB 112?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, anyone here? Yes, Senator Hansen.
Actually, I do have in favor of the bill, a comment. I'm surprised no union guys are here. You know, you're talking $100 million worth of public works projects here that will all go prevailing wage, so another little plus for the bill.
End of session. Strange things are happening. Senator Hansen is giving shout outs for Democratic bills and union members. It's historic. All right, let's go ahead and jump back to opposition testimony. I don't see anyone here in Carson or in Las Vegas. BPS, can we check the phone, please?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, anyone to testify in the neutral position?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Scott. I am Deputy Director of the Nevada Department of Wildlife Resources Deputy Director. The department has taken a neutral stance on AB 112, proposed legislation pertaining to wildlife crossings in Nevada. Across North America, expanding highway infrastructure and increased vehicle traffic has fragmented movement corridors for a variety of wildlife species and created safety conflicts with motor vehicles. More recently, the use of highway crossings has helped mitigate safety risks to motorists and restore habitat connectivity for wildlife. According to a report published by the Mule Deer Working Group in 2015, vehicle collisions exclusively involving mule deer and white-tailed deer in the western United States cost a minimum of $1.8 billion and involved about 200 human fatalities each year. Highways and increasing traffic volume and speed limits impose several impacts on wildlife, including direct mortality, physiological stress, habitat fragmentation, and the loss of access to crucial seasonal ranges. The construction of wildlife crossings and associated infrastructure in areas with high numbers of vehicle encounters immediately reduces collisions with deer, and use of these crossing structures by other species is likely to further reduce risk to both motorists and wildlife. In 2018, the Nevada Department of Transportation completed a series of wildlife crossings and associated infrastructure across US Highway 93 north of Wells and across Interstate 80 along Pequot Summit east of Wells to minimize deer vehicle collisions along the migration corridor for mule deer. A variety of other wildlife species have been documented to use these crossings, including elk, moose, carnivores, livestock, and the first ever documentation of a pronghorn antelope using an overpass in North America. During a 4-year study, about 4,500 individual deer were estimated to use the structures along Highway 93 during the fall and spring migration periods. Further, the wildlife vehicle collisions were reduced by up to 90% within the targeted migration corridor. Thank you.
Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mike, I don't think we've ever met. You were the chief of game, now you're deputy director for the Department of Wildlife, right? Why are you guys neutral on the bill? I mean, is there a requirement state agencies can't come and be in favor? Because your testimony, obviously, this is a great deal for Nevada. It's great for wildlife. You guys always have the records of the 2 crossings. Why the neutrality?
Senator Hansen, I'm gonna save him a little bit.
Okay, fine.
I think it's fairly common for state agencies to come in neutral, and at times they express concerns about a bill in neutral, and at times they are aggressively neutral and slash support. I don't think his behavior is any different than some of our other agencies, and my guess is that it's probably an agency by agency determination, but I don't want to put him under the gun here.
Oh, come on, Chair.
so
That
to
was
speak.
we're just starting to have some fun. So, no, that's fine. I'm just kind of curious. It sounds like a great deal for.
I think you
Okay,
can
well, then
gather
let
the
me-
agency's
let me ask
position from
this
his
question then.
testimony.
The crossing on 93, just north of Wells. I'm not familiar with one on Pequot, but I am on that one quite a bit. We had a discussion earlier. We came up with like 30-something thousand over a 4-year window. You mentioned only 4,500 deer, because that's one of the major migratory corridors from northeastern Nevada down into the Goshutes and Pequots and so forth.
Yeah, that may be a misprint. I believe that's just one seasonal.
Name
movement.
for the record, sir.
Mike Scott for the record. I think that's just one crossing season.
Okay.
Yeah, we have cameras on those. We even use those to classify animals for, rather than using a helicopter, we can just look at the pictures and determine bucks, does, fawns, et cetera. So.
Yeah, no, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. That's why it's just a win-win-win all the way around. So, okay. Well, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for protecting Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else here in Carson City for neutral testimony? Okay, not seeing anyone in Las Vegas either. BPS, is there anyone on the phone who'd like to testify neutral?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, Assemblyman Watts, closing comments?
Thank you, Chair. Howard Watts for the record. Thank you again for your time and consideration today. Also, I do believe that to take an official position on the bill has to be signed off by the governor's office. So I'd say, Senator, if you'd like to take it up with them, but at this point in session, I think I'm willing to forego a position from the agency and we can just get straight to the signature. So thank you all very much for your time and consideration today.
All right, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on AB 112. And while I can't guarantee you a signature, we can move the bill today. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Rossiter to go ahead and just give a quick summary in case you've forgotten before we accept a motion and take a vote. Ms. Rossiter.
Thank you, Chair Harris. For the record, Kristen Rossiter, Committee Policy Analyst and Nonpartisan Staff of the Legislative Council Bureau. As such, we do not advocate on behalf of or in opposition to any proposed legislation. Assembly Bill 112 was just heard by this committee and creates the Wildlife Crossings account in the State General Fund, appropriates $5 million from the State General Fund to the account. The Director of Nevada's Department of Transportation must administer the account, which is to be used by NDOT to design, construct, identify, restore, or protect wildlife crossings and other related highway features. This measure requires NDOT and Nevada's Department of Wildlife to consult with holders of grazing permits and private landowners of land adjacent to any potential locations for wildlife crossings and related highway features to avoid or mitigate any impacts on livestock management or uses of private land. Lastly, the bill requires NDOT in consultation with the Nevada Department of Wildlife to develop, publish, and update an inventory of connectivity needs in the state highway system where the implementation of wildlife crossings and other related highway features will improve permeability for wildlife, reduce wildlife vehicle collisions, or enhance wildlife connectivity. Thank you, Chair Harris.
All right, committee members, I'm not going to ask for questions, but I will accept a motion. All right, we got a motion from Senator Pizzina and a second from Senator Hansen. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. I will assign the floor statement to Senator Pazina. Okay, we will go ahead and head into our last item of business, which is public comment. Anyone here in Carson City for public comment? No one in Las Vegas. BPS, can we check the phones, please?
Chair, the public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Fantastic. We are adjourned. Have a great day.